Okay, hello. Welcome everybody. Welcome. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for everybody joining in. Today is a very special day. We're celebrating the Design Challenge Award ceremony. And I'm honored, very honored to have everybody online be present, as well as a special recognition to the experts of the Biennale, Guigo, Hildegard, and Elisa, who are joining us, which is a great, great honor. I'm very excited. My name is Eduardo Quintero. I am director of Pertanto and representative of the New York City Architecture Biennale Biennial. And today I am going to be the host of this very quick and brief event, but very important event, which culminates, or not culminates, but basically gives meaning to this edition. As you well know, Pertanto is an online educational platform with courses. And the reason why we have Pertanto is because we want to promote, we want to push intellectuality and curiosity, because we believe wholeheartedly that it is important to have a better world. In this quest, we of course look at topics that are important and relevant in order to have a conversation. This first edition of Pertanto couldn't have chosen a better topic, the topic of social inclusion, designing with empathy. Today is more relevant than ever before, always important, but I believe it's probably one of the most important topics today. In this Pertanto editions, experts, Hildegard, in this case, Hildegard, Elisa, and Guigo, provided us with their analysis, ideas, findings about problematics and the vision of the future, and the scholars, the audience, was invited to go at the same speed to analyze, ideate, and create a prototype, which would be then submitted into the design challenge. And that's what we're here today. We're here in order to look at what was submitted. And I can say that we were delighted. We were not impressed because we knew that we had very amazing scholars, but we were very delighted to see the talent, the amount of effort, and the obvious inspiration that everybody who collaborated or who participated put into this challenge. And so we're really, really glad. Today, we're going to be looking at three proposals, the ones that we thought were the most notable of all. And so the program today will be first to have Ana Maria Zampoña, which is New York City's architectural biennial representative. We'll open up with her insights about social inclusion. Then we're going to have a presentation. I'm going to do my very best to present the notable entries by three of the scholars. And then we're going to have a roundtable in which the experts, Hildegard, Elisa, and Guigo, among myself, with me, will discuss these three projects and the ideas behind these three projects. And then we'll get to the aha moment, which is to select or announce the winner. There's always has to be a winner. It's unfortunate and fortunate at the same time. And we'll give that person an opportunity to talk for a minute or two. And that'll be it. So it'll be a quick thing, but hopefully very special, very special. So without more, I want to introduce a Latin American representative of the New York City Architecture Biennial, Ana Maria Zampoña. I'm very honored to have her on board with us today. If you could please turn on your camera. And she will give a small presentation. Ana Maria is co-founder of Forza Creativa. She has a bachelor's in art history from Boston College and a master's degree in architecture and urbanism from the University of Miami. Ana Maria has worked with the renowned brand Burberry in London and Milan, and she has developed various architecture and urban investigations in the United States, Panama, Italy, Japan, and many other countries. It is my real pleasure and an honor to invite Ana Maria to the screen to speak about Pertanto's theme, which is social inclusion, designing with empathy, and to open up this conversation. Ana Maria, welcome. Ana Maria. Okay, 1 second. Let's check what's going on. There you are. Excellent. Well, Ana Maria, the stage is yours. Thank you for being here with us. We're eager to hear you open up this conversation about social inclusion.
Okay, wonderful. It's an honor to be here. Thank you, Eduardo. It's an honor to share this time and space with such esteemed professionals and academics. I'm so happy to join in on this conversation today. Okay, so we are going to start this discussion of social inclusion, designing with empathy, with what we all know to be true today, that we just live in extreme times of extreme polarizations in our society. Even though we may be more connected than ever, virtually speaking here on this platform with over 3 continents, we're talking right now, this global pandemic has really exacerbated what we knew to already be true regarding far left and right political views, gender and racial stereotypes, and even generational IDs and tags that keep us distanced into the fields that are fit for specific targeted marketing groups. So it's no wonder that the New York City Architecture Biennial chose social inclusion as its theme this year, and also other thought leaders around the world, such as the Aspen Institute, have outlined what can collective leadership do in times of such polarization. So while we continue to develop other editions in Pertanto, I do believe that this will be the most heartfelt one for us. However difficult and abstract it is, the concept of social inclusion, it's far easier to identify and measure that of social exclusion. Unfortunately, while it seems completely unacceptable and we all would never champion for it, it happens all the time. Sometimes the most unexpected results of this highly dreamed and extremely planned exclusive community brings on the displacement of its local residents to areas of town that are completely inaccessible, uncharted, and even unnamed. Therefore, as a result of this exclusion and distancing, we see that the general public at large is a little bit disenchantized or distrusting of the profession of architecture, and views it as a little bit distant to the needs of the general public. This quote from Craig Wilkins, "Dear architecture, I've been wondering why you don't speak to me. Is it because you don't see me? Are you ignoring me? Maybe it's because you really don't care for me. But what is it you sure don't speak? That is, at least not to me." To me, it just really heightens this sentiment of, are we really not being aware? Are we really, is the profession not making visible the invisible? And so to me, it just is a calling really for heightening our sensibility and our greater awareness. Therefore, we bring forward this image back from the moment of the height of the Enlightenment, which was of great inspiration when we started Pertanto, this moment of extreme academic virtues and values. And this image is referencing the moment during the French Revolution, where the political extremes came together and they said, we need to take an oath. We need to make virtues the most important thing. And of course, for us, it would make the most sense that caring and compassion and empathy be a pillar of our design. It's difficult to plan for inclusion, we know this, but as Hildegard suggested, we must do it, and we must begin and design every project considering with empathy. So this was meant to show us that the root of the Hippocratic oath, like doctors do, where where compassion and respect and integrity are the pillars and they're held accountable for them. When we graduate from architecture school and urbanism school, we're not held to these standards. The AIA makes suggestions of ethics, but they don't hold us accountable for them. So the public in general will hold us accountable, but are we able to heighten the level of awareness to then make sure that we have this followed through? Therefore, I bring these examples forward of other artistic disciplines that actually do this. They make aware and they heighten our sensibility to this process of awareness. An artist like Amanda Williams, who paints these abandoned and homes that have been marked for that are condemned. Basically, she paints them, she gives them new life, so giving a new perspective on what has been abandoned. And this other artist, Japhis, who makes these overscaled sculptures of what were plantation workers in the middle of urban areas, also highlights a sensibility to what the use was before and who are we really designing for. Therefore, art in these tactical interventions that can be temporary can also heighten the representation and educate us. I wanted to finish with this image of, the wall of our times. Growing up in the 80s and 90s, the wall was, of course, the Berlin Wall. But today, the wall, when people reference this wall between Mexico and North America, it is the greatest metaphor for social exclusion. And I think it's a beautiful way that actually two architects, Ronald Reel and Virginia Sanfratello, from the studio of Rael Sanfratello, decided to make this installation and show us how connection versus polarization, how you could bridge this gap and offer an opportunity to foster connectivity, to foster empathy, and to really give a sense of hope in this polarized world that we live in. So thank you so much for participating, and congratulations.
Well, wonderful, Ana Maria. I thank you so very much for your interesting more. No longer, we have to act. Architects, planners, we have to look at this very, very carefully. So thank you so much. So now the next step is to actually present to you the three projects that were selected as most notable. I would just want to add before, and actually I forgot to mention something. As you know, in my name there, I have Eduardo Quintero, parentheses, Pertanto, and then /USA. I'm just putting the country where I am. It would be nice if everybody who's participating today puts after your name the location where you are. That would be good in order to at least make it a little more personal, know where everybody is. So, okay. So next step is to talk about the three entries. The three entries, I want to just tell you, we invited all the scholars to submit their entries, which could be a poem, a video, photography, sketches, renders, even songs, whatever the media was best suited to represent their creativity and their input. So the three that we have today focused very interestingly in three topics, three projects, three topics. One was women and safety, perception of safety for women. So that was one of them. The other one was inclusivity for an underrepresented neighborhood, challenged economically. And the other one was all about tactical urbanism. So three really interesting points of views within the topic of social discussion. First, we'll have Daniela Mastronardi and Caterina Secchi from Italy. I'll present their project quickly. I have had the pleasure of meeting them, as well as most people on Pertanto in the community gatherings. They basically had the project called the Ribbon Project, which was born from statistical research and personal perception of the scholars, their friends and fellow women regarding public space of Pisa, the city of Pisa. Caterina and Daniela launched an online survey to further understand women's perception of safe and unsafe spaces, what they thought were the elements of safety and unsafety perceived by women in public space. And they submitted basically photos, videos of what that meant to them. The project acted in two different ways. One was a technological way, by creating a mobile app and several panic and emergency call features, which allowed them to communicate. That was the technological part, but also had an architectural component by including a number of elements in order to increase the perception of safety for women. And users could have these emergency tools and elements and interventions in order to connect and voice any type of alert. And so in two different ways, architectural and technological. And they suggested a number of interventions along the path between the center and the more suburban areas, where most of the people moved, which was very interesting. And they had a couple they presented there. For example, what they call the chameleon cube, the pink gate, the meeting table, the talking tunnel, the pink lantern, and the hugging cube. So many, and like that, all with very catchy names, and all, of course, with fundamentals behind them. And so to us, it was a very noteworthy. They started with surveys. They paid attention to the community. They analyzed. They looked for an important topic that it was important to them. They created an idea, and then they executed the idea in this presentation. So I would like to invite Caterina and Daniela. I'm happy to have them and to invite them. Hello, Daniela and Caterina. Again, I'm very happy to have you here, and I am flattered, very happy to see the talent that you have. I only see amazing things for you. You have extraordinary talent, and what's most important, you have sensibility, and you have morals and values that I hope will always keep with you. Now, I wanted to ask you, just for 2 or 3 minutes, if you could tell me from your research, what stood out as the most interesting results as to what was safe, perceived as safe and unsafe in your surveys. And out of all of those elements, the pink gate, meeting table, which one do you think would be most effective to provide this perception of safety, and why, of course?
Hello everyone, and thank you so much, Eduardo, for your words, and thank you so much for this opportunity and this experience. It's a real pleasure for us to be part of this conversation today. And thank you for the question, because for us is a really important part. That's a really important part of the project. So women's perception is the central part of the project. So we understood throughout photos and videos and words of these women that for them an unsafe space was a dark space, first of all, then was a space that made them feel alone. So it was an empty space, but it was also a space where they were, for example, surrounded by men. So where they were feeling alone. They were not alone, but they were feeling alone. And then another important point for us to describe was the different feeling and the different perception of indoor and outdoor spaces. Because we understood that not for everyone an indoor space is considered like a safe place, a safe space. So that's the reason why we pay attention on it, and we try to work with elements that were closed and open. So different kind of elements, closed elements and open elements. So for example, the open theater, or the closed cube, or the open table with seats, or the closed seats. So we pay attention on it.
While we understood that the safety perception for women was mostly when they were surrounded by family and friends, so places that were mostly with them. And also an important factor that we realized was the lighting. So a place with the right amount of light, so not too much to feel too much in the center of attention, but just to be around there and make you feel safe. That's why we decided to create the pink lantern, that it's just a place with very soft lights inspired by the light of the lanterns that makes you feel comfortable and safe while you're walking back home. And also we really believe that it's important for the development of this project, the connection between the pink ribbon and all the other networks that are already present in the city. And if we have to choose one that should be realized, probably I would choose the pink lantern, because it's something that actually can be expanded all over the city, also in the narrow path. And like we also explained, every one of these installations has the emergency call button that can make you feel connected with other people, and also with the safety call of the city.
Wonderful, wonderful, excellent. I really commend you for excellent work, well presented, and we're honored to have you selected as one of the most notable projects in this edition. So thank you again so much.
Thank you very much.
Now go later into a discussion, and we hope to talk with the experts a little bit about your project. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's see. Continuing. Now we'll talk about Sofia Chapero's project. She's from Argentina. Sofia presented a really interesting project. Heartfelt anecdote preceded the project, which was that when she was in school, she had a professor who basically presented them with a project, and she referred to this area as empty space, this area or community in Cordoba. And later, when the students realized it actually was not an empty space at all, it was actually a community. But it was seen so far, so remote, that it was referred to as an empty space. Later on, the government actually launched a national competition or a master plan for that zone, and the selected project. One second, sure everything is right. Yeah, and the selected project basically proposed to move that area to the periphery, which is typically seen as a solution for this type of challenged communities. And so Sofia proposed a 7-part project, which was very well presented, beautifully analyzed, in which she implemented a number of tactical urban interventions along the wall. This community of Los Galpones is walled. And so she did tactical urbanism interventions along the wall where she felt was the inflection points were most important. And she also made urban furniture additions to the entrances of the square. She provided places for connection, like a football court, to link Los Galpones football school and the Alta Córdoba football school, pedestrian paths, and so on. A really interesting project, and sadly, the reality of many communities in the world. And I think we were very impressed with the solution that she had. So I would like to invite Sofia to the screen, and so I can, so I can see you. Sofia, again, hello. I've been able to meet you in the past in the community gatherings, and it's a pleasure to see you again. I congratulate you for great analysis, great sensibility, and amazing work. Thank you for your participation. An incredible case study. So I wanted to ask you, if I may, of all the interventions that you are suggesting, you're suggesting many tactical interventions, which today are very popular in this search of providing solutions, and sometimes finding that there's so many rules that restrict you from actually doing an intervention. It takes years, sometimes approvals, and sometimes these guerrilla solutions are implemented. And so if you could make one of those many interventions that you suggested, which one would you suggest and would you implement?
Well, thank you, Eduardo, for your words. And I think that the project is really based on human interactions and how we can develop a way to recognize this community by making spaces where people can meet, exchange, and interact. So if I have to choose where all it can start, I think that the square, La Plaza, because it's the place that already exhibits the most interactions per day. So, and also it's the place that it is situated the main soup kitchen, and also they have already like connections and relations with neighbors and the city who help them. Actually, the project is not supposed to be completed. It is proposed by parts, as you said, like the links in the wall. And what is the most important thing is to work with the community. Like the whole process of this analysis and then the project, it is to, I don't know, find these activities that already exist and find the relationships. And this square generates like a platform that provides opportunities to market, to cultivate, and also to play. I think that it's a way, this square is the way to welcome this community, to offer who they really are. And also it is an invitation to the neighborhoods and the city to meet their really neighbors. Because one of these, as you said, the indifference is reciprocal. So that is the main reason. And well, to finish this answer, the aim of this proposal, the really aim is to create spaces that gives opportunities to people. Like, I think that that's like the main reason, because these people, I think that also in the project, I said that we failed them as society, as the academy, as the government. And I think that they need an opportunity to get to know each other. Like we need the opportunity to meet them, and they also need the opportunity to, I don't know, be themselves. Thank you.
Excellent, Sophia. Thank you so much again for your words, which to me resound, because most places that I know are not unfamiliar to that reality of indifference. And it's a sad indifference that just grows on you as being normal, and you see it as normal, and yeah, those people on the other side, or us on the other side of those, that type, which is foreign. And sometimes we don't make an effort of bridging as human beings. And as architects, I think we are obliged to think of inclusion just as much as we have to think of structural design, or water not coming into your building, or the essentials of architecture. So thank you again so much, Sophia.
Thank you.
Later on, we'll have the opportunity of listening to Guigo, Lisa, and Hildegard comment on your project. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, so that was great. And then last but not least, our scholar Lena Wagner, who is a social scientist based in Holland. She is doing an internship at HUNC, an acronym for Human Urban Nature Connected, an urban design studio based in Rotterdam. Lena is not a trained architect as our other scholars, but she's passionate about the relationship between people and the built environment, which is so important. For the design challenge, she observed various public spaces and ended up choosing Van Forstplein Square in Delft, and which is located in the outskirts of the city center. And this space was surrounded by a mixed-use area, but was rather underutilized. And so she did a series of interviews with local people and in the community, and her team at HUNC sought to understand the reasons why people ignored the area or saw it as problematic. And so they did they paid attention, they did surveys, they communicated, and that was really good. Then they started doing some small tactical interventions, like making the square more colorful with lines and dots. And then as they saw that this very few interventions were very popular and well received, they continued doing a second prototype with observations and basically made a bigger plan to intervene the park there. For us, it was a very interesting and thoughtful presentation. She submitted a video, a very well documented video of the entire process, which was very interesting. And we were amazed with her sensibility and interest in really about fairness and looking for opportunities for people to unite. And very interesting how she saw the opportunity of spaces that were seen as problematic or unuseful or unimportant as perfect places for inclusion and connectivity. So Lena, congratulations if you can come to the screen. Hello, Lena. Again, nice to see you again. I've also been privileged to meet you in the community gatherings. So hello again.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Wonderful. Thank you, Lena. Well, thank you for submitting such a thoughtful and amazing submission. So thank you so much. So thank you. Okay, so I want to ask you just a quick question. If you could tell us, what do you think you as a person outside of the academic circle of architecture, but interested in the topic of architecture and the urban form, what do you think, what unique perspective do you think you can bring to the table that perhaps others might not be able to do so easily? And in your experience of this particular project, what do you think, how do you think your role was particularly useful and interesting?
Yeah, thank you first again for this opportunity. It's amazing to have this chance and also to learn how architects and designers think through this program. That's really amazing. And to answer your question, I think it is really important to bring more a human perspective and a people perspective to urban design and urban design projects. So I think through my project, I really learned to engage with the local community and do observations and interviews and to hear what the people really are facing and what challenges are they facing and what are their visions about the space. And I think that's something that is now coming more, but I think it still has to be encouraged more. And I think as someone who comes from a social science background and who is really interested and passionate about people, can really add some value to urban design projects. And I also think that when social scientists and sociologists work closer together than with architects, then we can together create more human cities and bring that people perspective back to places. And yeah.
Well, that's so important because at the end of the day, cities are not artificial models or constructs. They're actually, they should be, not always are done for people. And I think we have learned that when we do cities or even buildings or spaces in a vacuum, or this, focused on other things like cars or whatever it is, then we typically don't do as well a job. And so I believe that the connection between professionals like you and architects is essential. And so I really congratulate you, and I hope that more people around the world, outside of the world of architecture, pays attention to what goes on in the design of their cities and spaces, because I believe we would be more aware of what works and doesn't work, and we probably would demand better spaces, thinking and knowing that better spaces can make a better society. So thank you so much, Lena.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Okay, so excellent. I'm very happy. I went through all the 3 projects, and I think I did it more or less okay. I'm sure they would explain it much better than I did, but I did my best. Now, so to really make things more interesting, we are absolutely privileged, and to me it's a special privilege, and I'm very happy to have in the same space the three experts, Hildegard, Elisa, and Guigo, who all have worked so absolutely hard, have been so committed to Pertanto, and who have really been, are the key of the success of this. And I am really happy that you guys are here. I wanted to introduce you quickly. We have Hildegard, who is the principal of HV, an architecture and restoration firm based in Panama City, and the founder of the foundation, Fundación Calicanto, CAPTAS program. Hildegard is here, and I'm very privileged. Elisa should be here as well. She is the principal of Enlace Arquitectura, based in Caracas, and a professor of Princeton University School of Architecture. And I am privileged that she's here and call her my friend. We also have one of the directors at Gale in San Francisco, teacher at the UC Berkeley and UT Austin, Guigo Di Tommaso, who I am also privileged to be doing this with, and also I can call my friend. And so I'm surrounded by good friends, linked by the passion of architecture more than anything, because I have many architecture friends, but I feel special connection because I believe, have a special interest in doing just things right, caring about people, and in being interested as to how our work can really be inclusive. And so thank you again for making this happen, for putting all your work. And so now what I would want to do, if possible, for 15 minutes or so, is just to basically exchange some ideas. I think, Hildegard, you probably were appealed by the first project where the focus was women, and how they were looking at that issue, and you probably dealt with that issue a lot. Elisa, for example, you probably were very interested in the second project, which was the one in Argentina, where it was an area, invisible, empty space, perceived as that, and instead of displacing them, all of the possible interventions and interactions that can happen, and all the magic that can happen when you acknowledge them. And Guigo, you probably were interested in all of them because you're a totally rounded person, but you probably also saw you have so many interesting ideas and projects of tactical urbanism, which you probably found fascinating, how Lena was able to find in a space an opportunity to create a community, to integrate ages, genders, religion, and sometimes spaces are there, right there, waiting for us to intervene them, but just people are not paying attention. And so, I don't know if anybody wants to start.
I can start if you want. First of all, I want to congratulate all of the three girls that presented. I'm really honored that they're all actually three groups, because one group has had two women, but they're all women. So that's really exciting to see women thinking about architecture in a different way and about public spaces. And in a way, what we're seeing now is a change in the concept of the architect. The architect as just a maker of space versus an architect that actually is leaning into all the other sciences around and leaning into the community to really understand what the problems are. And I wish when I had gone through architecture school, we were talking about these issues in such a straightforward way. And I just want to say that what I find fascinating is that they all got proximate to the problem. And without getting proximate to the problem, there is no way you could really understand a solution and really tapped into the community. And Brian Stevenson, who's an incredible person who's worked with prisoners in the United States, used to say, you know, to really do the change that we want in the world, we have to get proximate. And that was the first step they did. And I really appreciated that in all the three projects. And then the second thing he says is you got to change the narrative. And to change the narrative, architecture is an incredible tool, because we start talking about different solutions to problems that are very simple. None of these interventions are huge interventions. They're little details. It's the devil of the details of trying to fix issues that are pretty simple, but in the end can really change a community. And he says you got to stay hopeful, and there's a lot of hope in what I see, because there's a new generation that is trying to really see at these problems. And finally, I think his most important saying is you've got to be willing to do uncomfortable things. And sometimes we sit in our studios and we design for other people who we don't know, without really a knowledge of the situations. And to really do the change that we want, to change these communities, you got to go down there. You got to touch the community. And I can see that all of three of them were affected by the problem. And when we were discussing the issues in Pertanto, it was, look at the problem, see what bothers you. And they went after that. So I want to congratulate all three of them.
Yes, excellent. No, totally. I am also I was inspired by all of these three projects. Absolutely. You need to be close. Otherwise, you cannot know intimately the situation and the problem. Yes. Elisa or Guigo?
Guigo, why don't you go ahead?
I can go next. Thank you.
I'm so happy, Guigo, that we're all here together. People have seen us on screen so many times, all next to each other, because our videos go, I think, if Hildegard first, and Elisa, and then Guigo. It looks like we were all together filming this, but to me, it's magical that the four faces are here. To me, I'm excited. So, Guigo, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, not at all. It is very exciting. Hello, everyone. Yes, I was also very impressed by the three works. They're all really exceptional in different ways. And I wanna actually echo a little bit Hildegard here. One thing that really impresses me positively is that all of this work is really blurring the boundary between social sciences and design in an effortless way. I think it's important to really stress this point, because maybe 10 or 15 years ago, design and urban design as well was quite still disconnected from the reality of the street level, from the reality of what is really happening within communities. And it's really exciting to see that all of this work is now starting from observing behavior, talking to people, listening, and then it is using very simple design tools to respond to what is learned in the streets, to really make something that is maybe quick and low investment in terms of what it takes to do, but has a very lasting impact. So again, congratulations to all of you. It is very exciting to see how easily you can pierce through the silos of disciplines, borrow tools from social science to apply them to design, borrow tools from design and apply them to social sciences, and do that in a way that is really achieving better, stronger, more long-lasting results in transforming our cities.
Thank you, Guigo. And one thing is, for example, Gil, I don't know how it became, or if it's always been cities for people, but that is actually the essence. And it seems like for, I don't know, half a century or something like that, that was not the focus at all. It was, I don't know, it was just playing, like, I don't know, with the Sharpies on paper, but it wasn't about people. And so definitely, and also what I like very much is that architects can do outstanding work sometimes, but the work is really amazing when you are thinking of inclusivity, because you can do almost every single project and do a good job, a more or less good job, if you're just thinking of the normal things that we're pressured to look at. But when you incorporate inclusivity, I think then the work really is long lasting and it has very, very healthy roots. So yeah, I think it's just something, a perception and a requirement that we need to have inside of us, that we could or can or cannot have. But if you have it, then your work is just so much better. Elisa.
Yeah, no, thank you for this opportunity, as you say, for all these faces to be here at the same time. I've really enjoyed the kind of community that this has opened for me as well. So thank you, Eduardo, for that. I might to speak very directly to the projects, and I very much also appreciated the approaches, and I think that they bring up important questions, maybe more so than providing definitive solutions. It's to present opportunities and possibilities. And so, for example, in Sophia's project, by inverting what is conceived of as separation, the wall, divisions, and making it now become a premise for a connection, a wall that is full of program and full of activity that is perceived no longer as a dividing mechanism, and maybe even little by little starts to erode that. The insight or the instinct to go for the wall, I think, was a very accurate one. And I just, in both Sophia's project and Lena's, which has to do as well with a place that wants activity to kind of permeate it and describe for any citizen that place in their mind as a place full of people, really needs to be observant of the kinds of programs, organizations, activities that are already latent and already existing in those communities. So imagine, Lena, for example, in, I'm not going to say this right, but Van Forestplein.
I had to practice the word many times, so it's okay.
It's a little bit like German, but it's Dutch. So you know, maybe gardening is something that some of the neighbors are interested in, or maybe there's a book club somewhere around, or, you know, that seniors, I love the intergenerational aspect of it, but that seniors and children could interact by reading stories to each other, children to the adults and the seniors as well. But to find these forces of activity that are there already and then give them, you know, a platform and a space, that's sort of difficult to do with a pandemic, for sure, but to be in tune with those kinds of forces on the ground. And then the project by Katrina and Daniela and the Pink Ribbon, it reminds me very much in a way of, because it's trying to make visible something that's happening, but it is intangible, or, you know, it's a perception, it's perhaps a history of events that have happened in certain parts of Pisa, and maybe to link it to what Antanas Mokus did, which was so brilliant, to, in an effort to control bad driving and the accidents that it was generating on street corners, making visible in a kind of a very forceful and direct way all of the accidents that were being recorded in a certain cross section. And so now the drivers were aware, oh, this is an intersection that has had in the last week 2, 3, 5, 10 accidents. And so for this pink pieces that you've displayed through the city, that they could actually be thought of in connection with places that are known to be problematic, and that their existence is really to make this visible for a large audience and raise awareness about this perception of insecurity that women often have. I think that potential is really there, a really brilliant way of making the city speak and educate.
Yes, wonderful. No, I actually enjoyed, if you go into the depth that you were doing, how it was something that marvels me. Something about Sophia's project is how, like at least in many countries in Latin America that I've seen, how it's marketed. Like, oh, this is a gated community. I mean, this is 2021. And that's what you advertise. It's a gated community. The intent of separation, I would think that is already vastly, like overcome. But still, communities, even though we're talking here 4 people, trying to break barriers, create connections, inclusivity, still the larger force is to do this type of communities that go against that are basically replicating what we know does not work. Basically creating small ghettos, even luxury ghettos, but ghettos. And so I don't know. I think that's why I really applaud Sophia, because I think there's walls in so many different forms, and we need to look at ways in that wall, the inflection points where if you pierce, that's where you're going to create the greatest pressure. And those walls exist in many different levels. And so, yeah, that's one thing that I really liked about Sophia's project in particular. Anyways, I just wanted to ask you, Guigo, one example, just Guigo and Hildegard, I'll ask you quickly something. What have you seen, Guigo? You do tactical projects all the time, strategies. What have you seen, like, for example, in this intention of doing inclusivity? Have you seen, are you working more in your projects in bicycles, in creating, in designing new benches that somehow sponsor the community, about the proximity of benches? Or what have you seen lately is that the greatest trend or opportunity of creating moments of inclusivity? Have you incorporated? I know that you've worked in Broadway and in so many places.
Yes, thank you for the question. Well, it's a big question.
Yeah.
There's different ways, we can go about it. One thing I want to say to start, because I think is very relevant to the question, is that we more and more are interested in combining tactical interventions with strategic work, right? So if we think of the tactics as the things as well expressed by these projects that can be done at the ground level, in the streets, with simple means to make a lasting impact. And we think of the strategies actually as the broader, bigger, capital intensive projects that maybe the public sector is better suited to promote. We see that there is always best impact when you see both the tactics and the strategies deployed at the same time and working together, right? As a person that even before working with Gail through Rebar, which was a art and design collective very active in California, I was part of more, starting 10 years ago. Tactics are incredibly impactful, but you cannot really transform a city with only tactics. You need to kind of find allies in in the sectors that can change the city through big strategies. This is a little bit why in my videos I was very keen to speak about the impact of mobility policies at a metropolitan scale in advancing inclusivity, right? Because those are as impactful as more tactical intervention that can be done in a kind of a more grassroots way, and they have to be combined together. So that's one thing I really care about right now, is this idea of bringing to the tactical world this thought, like we have to combine tactics and strategies. We cannot just work with only tactics. Then in terms of when it comes to the actual object of the project, there's several things that you can do. And I like that you mentioned, maybe you need to work on a piece of public furniture. Maybe you need to work on active mobility, like bicycle infrastructure. I think every situation and every site and every urban context call for something that can be catalyst for change. At Rebar and then at Gale, we have been working so much with public furniture because it's just a kind of it's a very rich object to work with. It can bring together so many actors. It can become really something that, even if it's simple and small, transform dynamics in urban space. And we have certainly worked a lot with projects of tactical mobility improvements, like temporary bike lanes and so forth. But I think it's a matter of understanding a site case by case and identify what can be that that thing you can work with as a catalyst for change that can really have a real impact on inclusivity. Yeah.
Excellent. I could just put mute and listen all day to all of you speak. And Hildegard, just to perhaps round up the roundtable, anything you would want to close with, but I would want to particularly ask you if this is something that you think is valuable commenting on. If you, in your quest of empowering women, in Panama, in El Casco Antiguo, particularly empowering them economically. Have you seen, and you've, in your videos, you mentioned so much that some of the greatest work had to be done in their psychological state, as much as in their, educational for state of, skills and talents, educating them in general. Have you noticed also a challenge of empowerment, empowering them in terms of safety? Is that an issue that you see prevalent in Latin America as you work in this type of communities?
Well, totally, Eduardo. Safety and women empowerment are linked. They're actually not independent from each other. Most of the women, and when I started this whole process, the women that I thought I was meeting were not the women that I ended up meeting. I was picking these women in an urban environment, thinking, oh, they need a job. The reality is they didn't need a job. They needed to actually empower themselves and believe in themselves and move out of the violence, domestic violence and community violence they were living with. And so there is no change without freedom. And when I talk about freedom, I go back to Amartya Sen's idea of development as freedom. And if we don't develop the capabilities for every human being within a society to reap all the benefits of society, they won't be free to then reap the benefits of any architecture that we develop. And so for me, everything is interlinked. We have to look at architecture as a part of the puzzle. And that puzzle requires what Guigo's talking about, which I find fantastic, which is, doing the tactical and the strategic insertion. But without having the freedom, the people free to really reap these benefits, everything that we're doing will just stay as a design idea. People are part of the process, and they need to be, like, when you look at Latin America, are we free really to create these communities that you're talking about? No, not the person who's developing the walls around their community are as limited within their community as the person that lives in the low-income community. And so the violence has two sides. And we tend to look at the violence and the problems just from a one-sided perspective. Reality is we're all part of the problem. And then when we start mixing, and I love Lena Wagner's coming from a social science and really looking at the community and saying, okay, this is what I know. And then we bring the architect in, and then we bring the philosopher in, and then we bring the guy who does the public works, and we bring Guigo in, and then we start turning the wheels into something completely different. We need to think about design not as a one-track mind, because that's all we've done, is we've looked at architecture. It's like, oh, this is all I do. What I've learned working with the women is they are teaching me how to understand my own personal community. I come from, a very upscale upbringing. I did not have that contact. I did not understand the community I lived in. And that's why I always go back to getting proximate. When I mean getting proximate, is sitting with them, understanding them, and having them decide what is it that they want. Because we tend to think, oh, they need a church. No, it's like, what is it? What is the strategic intervention that we need to do? Listening to them bring the change that is needed. So for me, it's not one track. It's not about the women either. It's about the whole and the emptiness that I found in a society that was leaving them behind. Now I'm even focusing on men, and now men are being left behind too. There's so much complexity within the system that we need everybody. It's not about me doing one, it's my project is one little thing within a very complex, interconnected system that is very unequal. And I go back to your title, Design with Empathy. What is empathy? How do we define empathy? Because people define empathy as, oh, I think I feel what you feel. I think it's deeper. It's I care for what you're feeling. And in the caring is when we really start designing a completely different system. So I would even change to design with care and design with caring even deeper.
Thank you so much, the three of you, for this time this afternoon. I am enriched by this conversation, and I'm sure everybody listening to you is. And I know, as a matter of fact, that the people, the students, everybody who's taken the courses have been absolutely inspired and admire you. So thank you so much for your work along the years that has allowed you to be a speaker of this issue today. So thank you so much. Now, thank you. And so we can turn off the cameras, and we are going to go to the big moment. Thank you so much. To the big moment. The moment we're all waiting for. Who's the winner of this design challenge? And so let me, without more, what I'll do is I'll introduce this person who we saw so many entries, which were amazing, but we decided, the Pertanto team, that this one was well-rounded in terms of the topic, the execution of the work, the level of care. And so without more, I would want to introduce and bring up, turn the camera for Sofia Chapero. Thank you so much for your entry. You are today's, this edition's winner of Certificate of the Excellence. And I thank you very much for your work. I think the experts spoke highly of your work, and everybody who's seen your work has admires it. So thank you so much. Here's your stage. Tell us how you feel, please.
Well, thank you very much. I feel really honored, and I don't know, I think that design with empathy, like Pertanto classes, were like, I don't know, really inspirational. Like, I don't know, they were all over the place. Like, I think maybe in I don't know, in architecture, well, as an architect, we always I like learning this type of urbanism, this type of architecture, and this was like, I don't know, like it changed really my mind. It cleared my vision about how we can, I don't know, work with the community, work for a better world. And well, as Ana Maria said, like architecture has to speak to the people, to the communities, and well, as also Hildegard says, like really care about the community, our community, and maybe not doing bigger changes, like don't doing like, I don't know, big master plans or whatever, like making small parts in our society or whatever we can do for a better place. It will be like really nice. And I think that I have to say thank you also to, of course, to the experts, because you inspired me in so many levels, like each of one of you. And Eduardo, thank you very much. And the Pertanto team was excellent. And also I have a new group of friends, because in the conversations in Pertanto classes, I had the chance to meet a lot of people like Lena, Daniela, Katerina, and they're wonderful. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Sofia. Thank you so much. You deserve it. So I congratulate you. Well, thank you. I actually would like in the future to make perhaps another meeting or something with not only you, Sofia, but all the other, the three, Lena, Daniela, everybody, Katerina, and perhaps everybody can have a little more time to present your work to the community, because I think it was outstanding work. And I believe that if you had the opportunity of presenting it, would be really outstanding. So I thank you, Sofia. I invite everybody to be connected to our social media, I don't know, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, all the things we use, and just keep connected so that you can, when we come up with this meeting, you can all come and listen to them present. So I just want to tell Ana Maria to, if you can, open your camera so we can say goodbye. As the representative of Pertanto, I would want to thank you all for your participation today, for your time. And maybe at least, Ana Maria, can you turn on your camera?
The host needs to let me turn my camera on.
Ooh, this is there's rules. Well, let's see if you can. Otherwise, I will just say the goodbyes. So anyways, Ana Maria, maybe you want to, as the representative of the New York City Architecture Biennale, say something.
I was beaming to see all the presentations. The work is so inspiring. I think that this is the why we started Pertanto, was to reconnect with these ideals and the values. And when Sophia said we just can't fail these people, that's the reason. So congratulations, Sophia, and all the participants for your excellent work and contribution. And thank you to Lisa and Guigo and Hildegard for participating and believing in us in this first edition. I want everyone who can turn their camera on just to say congratulations to Sophia, Daniela, Caterina, and Lena, and just for all of us to be together on screen.
Oh, that would be nice. I like that idea.
Yeah, whoever's there.
There you go. Well, and Gigo's needs to come. Well, I like these faces. So anyways, without anything else, thank you again, everybody, for your time, for your effort. And I hope to connect with all of you soon physically. That would be great. Everybody, every single person who is in oh, that's great. Oh, I love this.
Felicidades, Sophia. Congratulations.
Yeah, my screen is not
Y a
big
todas.
enough. Okay, well, thank you so much. Good
Thank you.
morning, good evening, wherever you're in the world. Bye-bye.